The more astute of you will notice that I'm actually not 25. And there was a real crisis this morning when I stood in front of the mirror to present today and realized I looked like my father. And I'm not 21. So I tried to cool myself up because I'm talking about AI and give you something relevant. So what I'm really going to talk to you about today is this. I've been in technology for 30 years. I've seen a lot of fads. I've seen a lot of three-letter acronyms. I'm in sales, so I love a three-letter acronym. It's my favorite thing to bamboozle customers around the world by using it. But what we don't get is some thought. You know, we're in a world of hyperbolic argument right now. The newspapers love a hyperpole, and they love to argue. And AI kind of has taken that forefront. So what we really wanted to do was talk about, what does our partnership with AI look like? Is it going to be an Excel bully? And we've all seen the media talking about those nasty Excel bullies. Anybody who has dogs will know how ridiculous that statement is. It's not the dog, it's the owner. The Labrador is the same. It's a lovely, cute little puppy. Very friendly, always in an Andrex ab. But again, it's nothing to do with the animal. There are dangerous Labradors out there. It's all about the owner. So what we're really going to do today is to talk about our responsibility and who we are and how we work with AI and what's important when we're thinking about AI. So I really want to talk about a little bit of history, just to kind of give the foundations of where it came from. And you're sitting there thinking, wow, old white man gives me a history lesson. That sounds exciting. But it is really interesting because AI really isn't as modern as you think it is. It's been around since Greek philosophy. So really talking about that partnership is important. Then we're going to talk about what it's not going to be. How do we look after it? How do we direct it? How do we use it to help us? Why does it need good data? And I'll give you some examples of what happens when you don't give it good data. And then 5 things for you all to think about when you start going home. So let's talk a little about its history, the history of the robot. Do you know, AI was first discussed by Greek philosophers. And there was a lot of myths, there was a lot of stories about figures, statues, being endowed with intelligence by master craftsmen. Then we got to the 17th century, and people like Descartes were starting to suggest that perhaps human thought was just like algebra and geometry. Perhaps it was just human managing of symbols that sat out there in the world that could easily be turned into this, what they classify the electronic brain. Then we move forward to what I think is the father of computing, Turing. And Alan Turing had his own Turing test. And that was the ability to have a conversation through a teleprompter with an AI tool and not be able to distinguish human versus tool. All the way through society, all the way as we started to get into the 50s and 60s, people started to create these human machines. But there was an important component. There were people creating machines to think like people. But all the way through that process, there was a guiding principle. There was somebody directing it. There was a force. There was a flagpole for which it went around. Then computing power got a little bit cheaper, it got a little bit faster, and it got a little bit easier. And now we're in the modern AI generation. And what is it? Well, the papers would let you think that we're going to need this lady. She's going to need to save us all from the AI, this self-sentient being that was aware, that knew what it was doing. You know, when they really started creating computers, one of the biggest challenges that the engineers had was there was no way for a computer to store commands. You could give it commands, but it couldn't store commands. That was their biggest hurdle. 2 German engineers actually discovered how to do this in 1959 to actually allow storage of commands. So you could tell a computer to do something, and it would have 4 or 5 basic commands sitting behind there so that it could do it. It's not going to be a sentient being, certainly not for a very long time. The problem is, it still needs commands. It needs what we like to call the flagpole. It still needs something to center itself around. And we'll talk today about a couple of examples where the center has been slightly off, where people have maybe given it the wrong commands in the wrong order so that we got the wrong output. It's not going to be the end of everything. It's also not a panacea. It's not going to put us all out of jobs. this is probably the safest community on the planet. Creativity is extremely hard for the brain to process. I'm a significant ADHD sufferer, and I use different parts of my brain. And I'm a trigger, mad, I solve problems, and halfway through solving that problem, I like to switch on to the next problem. I don't close cupboard doors. I never fill up the dishwasher, which drives my wife absolutely crazy. But the truth of it is, I have a part of what we are going to talk about today. I am a member of a tribe. I have a certain skill. And in this room, we have all the skills on the spectrum that we need to be a cooperative tribe working together. So it's not going to be a panacea. It's going to still require us. It's still going to need us to guide it and direct it in a certain way. We're still going to need to be that oversight that it exists. And the truth is, how are we going to do that? How are we going to give it the oversight that it needs? Well, it still needs a flag. If you were to tell AI to make you money, what's it going to do? It's going to make you money. It's not going to give you the smartest way to make money. It's just going to obey the command. What you have to remember at its epicenter is, again, a 1 or a 0. So we're going to be left with an environment where an AI calculation is being based around a data point, a flagpole, or even an objective that you've given it that you want it to require. That combination of make me some money. Okay, I'm just going to discount everything. Show me how to convert a basket a little bit better. Okay, I'm just going to discount everything. Because what's shown is every time I discount, my historical data shows me that I have the ability to make more money. So that flagpole is not going to allow us to sit at home and relax, unfortunately. I saw that great article in The Guardian a couple of weeks ago where they said we're all going to be unemployed, we're going to be sitting at home, and we're all going to be very wealthy while something else does a job for me. I'm slightly suspicious of that. I look at Elon Musk and the lovely Mr. Bezos. They just seem to be putting lots of people out of business and focusing money like a feudal landlord. It feels like we're back in medieval times, all working for the same owner of the castle. And the truth is, I think it's neither. I don't think it's far right. I don't think it's a panacea. I think it's the most helpful member of the tribe that we're going to say. We're going to see this start to agree. Is anybody a fan of Harari? Excellent individual. Anybody a Bregman reader? Rutger Bregman? Slightly controversial towards Harari. They sort of talk about two different things. Harari, in Sapiens and Homo Deus and some of his other books, he suggests that our ability to cooperate together is really what made us strong. Bregman suggests that it was our kindness towards each other that really made us strong. I think the truth lies somewhere in between the middle. I think the truth of it is, if you think about the tribe, you had the ADHDs like me, who were really interested what was in the next valley. They were really interested as to what that tasted like. We needed a couple of psychopaths in the tribe, by the way, because we needed someone to fight the people in the valley next door. We needed some people with autism and Asperger's because, you know what, we needed our huts to stand up, to be straight when it rained. So when I think about AI sitting inside a modern environment, I think about it as another member of a tribe. I think about it as a super clever, Rain Man-esque member of the tribe who's picking data points from other tribe members inside his conurbation, and he's building patterns. He's trying to figure out, or she's trying to figure out, if these patterns hang together, if there's an answer at the end of that is useful. So is it something we follow? Is it a leader, or is it a member of the tribe? Again, I think it's a member of the tribe. How's it going to help us? We've all talked about content creation. I thought that presentation earlier was a phenomenal content creation piece where we were making doodles on a page and it's starting to create actual pictures. So in that example, it's a creativity co-pilot. It's that clever person on your left-hand shoulder who's ingesting a lot of data points, whether it be sketches, whether it be pictures, whether it be colors, and then it's building a picture. Now, all of that was fed by data. Why does it need good data? There's some examples of bad data. In Holland at the moment, there is one of the largest legal cases in Dutch history, the Dutch state built an AI tool to discover fraud in social payments. And they fed it a lot of historical data, and 180,000 people received a letter from the Dutch authorities saying that they had committed fraud on their social payments. Half of these people professed their innocence. When they actually dug in, what they discovered is that AI very quickly figured out 2 quick points: color, poverty, and country of origin. And they were their 3 points that they would determine before that letter was sent out. So if you were poor, if you were black, and you were from Eritrea, you were obviously committing fraud. 180,000 people are currently suing the Dutch state, which shows you why data is so important. It's crucial to feed the right data to AI. And what I'm really worried about is historical data is not the right data. Historical data is naturally sexist. It is quite racist as well, actually. In fact, pick a NIST, it's probably one of them. Because that's who we are as a nation. That's who we are as a people. Feeding the right kind of data in the right kind of way to feed your AI models is the key to its success. And what's important, we at Imagino, we call ourselves Imagineers, a little bit inside me dies every time I say that. Marketing hate me for saying it, but I love saying it because it kills marketing a little bit. We think that data is an interesting subject as well, because we don't believe in storing a copy of data inside an organization. You'll speak to loads of these tech companies, they call them customer data platforms, CDPs, because we like a 3-letter acronym as we discussed earlier. What they'll do is they'll take all the data in your organization and we'll create our own special version of the data. You may have heard another wonderful 3-letter acronym, the single customer view. Yeah? I want all the data that exists everywhere inside your business. I want to put it into a massive database, and that's what I'm going to feed my AI. So the AI is going to know what your cat had for breakfast last Wednesday, and that's really important, especially when we're trying to convert customers from a brief visit into a purchaser. We don't believe in creating another database. We think the best version of your database already exists inside your organization. So why should we not connect to it and then just stream it when a decision is needed? Instead of having that data as a kind of an old white man on stage going on about AI and how it should be used, how do we have a more younger, relevant version of myself? So that when anybody asks me a question, I immediately get the latest, most relevant piece of data to feed that machine learning, to feed that training, to actually calculate and computate the right kind of output based on real-time data as it happens. Imagine an AI model that could actually use real-time data as it's streamed through your business. That'd be powerful, because it wouldn't be a NIST. Well, we'd hope it wouldn't be a NIST. We'd certainly have a little bit more IST control. What's really important is when we think about this AI data horizon, the right flagpole. This is important. How do we use the right flagpole? What are we going to tell it to do? Is it going to fly the plane, or are we going to fly the plane and it's going to give us the best co-pilot experience that we could have? I think that the idea of a co-pilot fueled by AI is the most powerful thing that I could ever use. It's probably the most important member of staff I could ever have. They're going to be my Rain Man or Rain Woman, 2024. We're going to be able to ask it any question. It's going to be able to crunch all that data and give me the answer to questions, which would take me a huge amount of time to process and calculate. What are we going to feed it? How are we going to feed it? Are we going to feed it real-time data, or are we going to feed IST data? Are we going to stream it, or are we going to build a replicated environment? And more importantly, are we actually in control of our data right now? I'm going to tell a story that my team are going to scream with. My first name is Lindsay. AI would definitely suggest I was a female. The more astute of you will understand that I'm not. Now, whilst gender is unimportant in a modern environment, it's important to me, especially when I'm interacting with a brand or a service, Because I don't want to be welcomed to a hotel as Mrs. McEwan, especially not when I've stayed there for 15 times. I want an AI co-pilot to be able to suggest the best experience for me to have on boarding. And I want that data to be streamed based on my last visit. And I want that co-pilot to really help me understand, guide, and drive the interaction with that brand based on real-time data as it happens inside this organization. So, choose the right flagpole. Make sure you're telling it to do the right thing. Number 2, figure out if it's going to fly you or you're going to fly right next to it. It's going to be your co-pilot, your rain man, feeding you the right kind of data. Figure out what you're going to feed it and where that's going to come from. Make sure you stream, not replicate. And last but not least, get the data in the right kind of order to be able to feed it. A very fast whirlwind tour of my opinions of AI. I hope I didn't say anything controversial that upset anyone. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great MadFest, and I'm sure I'll see you on the Imagino stand where you can enjoy some tennis, a silly hat, and a glass of champagne. Thank you very much.